we are. It's another beautiful Saturday morning, and Ken, she's lightening up. It's not going to be that cold from now on. You know,
I sure hope so.
That was bitter.
Yeah, we had a snap. And it's really just the one week. Literally, it was last Saturday. We were talking about it, like it's coming. It was supposed to come in. Well, it did come in, I think, on that Sunday night.
It did.
And
and we're going to be talking about all spring long about what did you lose, what didn't you lose, what got hurt, what didn't get hurt.
What died.
Yeah, what died. Whatever. Well, let's do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
My tip of the week this week is to make sure that all your old containers, if you're going to be using for seeding, make sure they're clean. Okay? Mm. I'm experiencing some probably rhizoctonia or something in my onions. Mm. All my beautiful Spanish onions that are normally beautiful in Spanish are dying, falling over and dying. So that's my suggestion. I'm going to plant some more. I got more onion seed coming in from Stokes, but the fact is I'm going to make sure my clean containers, okay?
Yep.
Plant of the week for me this week is Heuchera micrantha.
Yeah.
Purple Palace. And Purple Palace, Heuchera is one of my favorites. It's so sturdy, it just seems to be immune to weevils, and it is evergreen. Like it's partially evergreen. It's looking a little bit sad right now, so kind of squashed down, but it keeps its color and its foliage all winter long.
Yep, sounds like a good one. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that, hey, happy Valentine's Day, number one. And because it is Valentine's Day, it's all about cut flowers today. And for me, the fresh cut flowers, always make that fresh cut just before you put them into the vase on a nice angle so it opens up the little sieve tubes that allow the water to access, and keep that water topped up every single day. That's the way to do it. Keep those flowers happy, and you should get at least a week or even sometimes 2 weeks. So that leads to my plant of the week, which is the lilies, the whole lily group, whether they're Asiatics or Oriental lilies. Orientals have the fragrance. The Asiatics have very little, if any, fragrance. And, so it's just up to the individual. But they're sure a beautiful eye candy, that's for sure. And they have the longevity. They often outlast just about everything in your vase. So there you go. Good plant of the week. And there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Well, you're right, Ken, and thank you. That Valentine's Day greeting. It is Valentine's Day tomorrow. Not today.
Is.
Just to remind you, just in case you were giving away chocolates today and flowers. Flowers are a fabulous thing to give on Valentine's Day, and it's very traditional. We've sure been through a few of those.
Over the years. Well, I was thinking about it. Actually, I just released a video on cut flowers and the top 10 cut flowers. So if you go to YouTube, you can check out Grower Coach and my top 10 list. And I was thinking back that, back in, I think it was 84 when I was first working in a flower shop, and I can remember when Valentine's Day hit, and it was something else. I'd never seen anything like it, and I'm not sure if it's still like that these days. But in those days, it was a big deal. Like we had to clear a good chunk of the entire flower shop out just to make room for arrangements. Oh, I know. And then we had to pre-build them all, get them all ready, and then of course just the cut flowers. Receiving a bundle of cut flowers was a wonderful thing. And then, of course, I ended up, assisting with that and stuffing and pre-building those arrangements. And then also, of course, the delivery guy. Yeah. That was me. And you and I have had a lot of discussions about flower deliveries because we spent a lot of time over the years delivering flowers.
Getting them there safely and not frozen. But, exactly. Valentine's Day was quite unique. Of course, we had Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and Easter were the big floral exciting times, right? Mm-hmm. Christmas was quite spread out over a period of time. Mother's Day was a little more focused, and Easter a little more focused. But Valentine's Day, it's a one-day deal, and you got to have those flowers there on Valentine's Day, pretty much, or the day before, or whatever. It's got to be bang.
Yes, and that would be today. Like on a Sunday, it's almost ideal. From a floral standpoint, is that you can have everything ready that week. The Saturday is really going to be the big day when you're going to probably sell the majority of the flowers, and then of course on the Sunday is the all the deliveries and everything that have to go out. Man, that's a tough job.
Well, I'd like to wish Happy Valentine's Day to all the ladies in my family, or in my life. Donna, my wife Donna, she's my partner, my dear wife. She's very important to me. Lindsay, my daughter, and Ellie, my granddaughter. Elisa, my eldest daughter, and her wife Bree, and of course my dear Auntie Kay.
Oh, very nice.
Happy Valentine's Day to Auntie Kay if you're listening. And my sister and all these women in my life. I tell you, Ken, surrounded by women. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It works.
You betcha. Yeah, well, I also would like to send out that Valentine's wish to my lovely wife, Wendy, and to our family with all of our kids, our granddaughters. Now we have 3 granddaughters, and it's just a fabulous thing. I wish they were closer, but it's just awesome. It's great receiving the little videos on the phone, and it makes everything worthwhile.
It is. This problem we've been having with the virus and that has sort of approached things differently. And
traveling around is not recommended.
No, it's not. But soon it will be. Pretty soon we will be, and someday we'll be able to walk into a store and smile at them.
Yeah, you never know. Could be. I think that, for anybody who's got any underlying conditions, I think it's wise to keep wearing the mask. Oh, yeah. Probably from here on out, I would say. Yeah. It's just you never know what's floating around out there. And
I must say, pretty healthy population now right this winter. Very, very few flu cases or anything like that.
Yeah, well, you notice it works, It definitely works.
Well, I did say my plant of the week was the Micrantha, the Heuchera Micrantha purple, or Palace purple. Mm-hmm. I've got written down here, place purple. Boy,
you were in a hurry.
Must have been tired last night doing this. Palace purple. Like I say, I've probably got about 8 varieties of Heuchera. Mm-hmm. Couple of different species of Heuchera, and I've also got some Heucherella, and I've got some Tiarella too. Mm-hmm. And the shiner, the one that just shines, is this Palace purple. There's a couple of new purple ones out too that I think are going to perform just the same, very similar. But this Palace purple is amazing. I've had it in there probably 15 years in that one spot. Maybe not 15, maybe 12 years in that one spot. And I've never transplanted it. I've never dug it. I've never put, it just keeps coming and coming and coming every year, strong, no weevils, which is a problem with Heucheras. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very pleased with it. Well, it's, the days are getting longer, Ken.
Yeah, I noticed it driving in actually this morning that there was it was widespread daylight. Yeah. I could actually see.
So you're going to forecast daylight today.
Yeah, widespread all day and then widespread darkness at night. Yeah.
Well, I'm enjoying the fact that 5:30 in the evening it's still light.
Yeah.
And getting stuff done, and you don't feel like the day is over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, being in the northern hemisphere and being in Canada, we do suffer from that. Mm-hmm. We have to sometimes take our vitamin D supplements, to make up for the lack of light because we're so far north. And so, but still, in southern British Columbia, we're good, compared to, say, northern British Columbia, which is, I'm not sure how far away it is, but it's a long, long ways.
We're pretty lucky here, Ken. We can have our cake and eat it, too.
Yeah, you betcha.
250-862-2525 to get through to us today. It is the AM 1150 Garden Show with Ken Salvail and Don Burnett here at your service. If you have a gardening question, it is getting to be gardening time. It's coming up, and hey, this is when she all starts.
Yeah, there's lots of seeding going on right now.
Lots of seeding, yeah.
Lots of seeding. Just the early. Now we did the early stuff. End of last month or whatever, but now we're in the middle of February, so now there's a whole bunch of new things we have to look at. And that's the way it is. About every 2 weeks there's something new that you have to get going.
Well, I'd like to talk, when we come back, a little bit more about seeding and about some of the precautions and my fatalities of my onions this year. Not a pleasant thing, but that's all a part of growing. You can't be successful every time. So my son had a problem with a gasteria plant, and it was rotting. And I said to him, Joe, this won't be the first time or this may be the first time, but it won't be the last time that you've killed a plant.
Yeah, no,
I've killed my share.
Yeah, it's part of the program. You bet.
Right. Okay, we're going to come back with more AM 1150 Garden. Well, as usual, Ken and I were talking about the weather and how and how it's warming up now. By tomorrow, it's only going to be 10 below at night and -6. And just in case, a friend Judy, Dr. Shigo's daughter, Judy might be listening right now, Ken, because she said, and it would be an honor if she was.
Absolutely.
I just want to remind her when we say it's -6. This is Celsius.
Celsius, yeah.
This is not Fahrenheit.
Right. 0 is freezing.
Yeah, 0 is freezing in Celsius.
So
it's very
6
scientific.
degrees below. Yeah.
And, so anyway, it's -6, -10 at night tomorrow night. And then Monday it goes -3, -6. Tuesday's +1.
Yeah, that's
stops freezing.
Fabulous.
+1 and -6.
Yep.
Wednesday's +3 and -5.
Yep.
Thursday's +2 and -3. Friday's +4 and -4 at night, +2. And then by next Sunday, a week tomorrow, it's going to be 0 overnight.
Yeah.
And if it says 0 on my phone, it usually is maybe +1 overnight where I live.
Yeah, and that's a week away.
Yep.
So, could be anything. It's hard to say. They've
been
pretty
surprisingly accurate, Ken.
Just in the last couple of weeks, I noticed. Yeah. But I think they could tell that big cold front. They're watching it and they can see it from satellites, right?
Yeah.
The polar vortex, and I know we hit that -21. I think just the other night there. So that's pretty cold for us in this valley. Typically we wouldn't get colder than sort of that -15 would be a cold snap. And that's not bad. -10, -15 doesn't really affect the plants too bad. -20, that's where we start to see some damage happen. But luckily, as I've said before, is like, we only had a couple days this week where it was really like a high of -12 or something, And even then, on the one day where it was supposed to be a high of -11 or something, it was -6 where I was. Yeah. So that's not bad, So it's how many hours you get. If it was -20 for a full 24-hour period, oh man, you'd have so much stuff die. It would be unbelievable.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today, and we welcome your calls. Middle of winter, sometimes it's a little not too much to talk about, but I'm telling you, gardening is around the corner. The big season, the big shoe, as Ed Sullivan would say, the really big shoe is coming up, and lots of things going on. And I mentioned, I've had some damping off. It's called damping off on your seedlings. Never had onions damp off before on me. The only change that I made this year, Ken, and I don't think this is not causing the damping off, but I did make a change. I couldn't get a hold of any number 1 mix, and I got the number 4 mix, which is the aggregate one.
Yeah, it's more.
Which
porous,
I thought it was appropriate because of all my succulents that I have.
But reusing trays for seedlings is a challenge. Like you can run into problems with that. They're over $1 a piece. So for new trays. So
well, yeah, well, I've got a little bit of Scot in me. Yeah. I'm a bit Scottish.
But what works really good is we've got all this hand sanitizer around us. It's all isopropyl alcohol, and you can if you can access, it should be that 90+% isopropyl alcohol, and you put it in a little mist bottle, and then you can spritz things with your mister, and then you can take your plug trays and stuff and just spritz them all down, and it just sterilizes them.
There is a tip of the week right there.
Yeah, you could do multiple.
A really good tip, Ken.
Yeah, it works really good. I mean, if it works for the medical field, it'll work for us. I think they use the 99% pure, but it is. It is something, for cleaning your pruning shears too, right? Oh, yeah. Which is something like nowadays we always have the hand sanitizer on us pretty much all the time. I don't know if you do, but I certainly do. I always have 2 or 3 different containers of it in the car or wherever. So, hey, on your pruners, you just take a little dab of that while you're doing your hands and do your pruners, and they just keeps them nice and sterilized. So, yeah. But cleaning them first would be the ideal thing, is just to wash them. And I'm doing a little video coming up on sort of preparation for the spring and how to clean up all my tools and things and get ready to go and sharpen in my pruners and shears and stuff. And so that's coming right up. And also, I just wanted to mention about the class this Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I'm having the Herbaceous Perennials webinar. So it's easy for anybody to participate, again, just in the comfort of your own home. And, you can just tune in, sign up, and we're good to go. It's about an hour and a half long seminar, and we cover pretty much everything that we need to. We're gonna we could spend a whole 8-hour day talking about herbaceous perennials, but I just sort of narrow it down to the most important aspects of managing a perennial garden and how, what to look for and the different, a little bit on each, not all the different species, but all the major common perennials and sort of tips on each one, So it's pretty intensive, but typical of a lot of my my webinars and classes are pretty concentrated, but I always call it practical horticulture, stuff that you're going to need and use on a daily basis, really. So,
well, one of the biggest changes that I've seen over my period of time from the mid-'60s when I started really getting serious about horticulture to now. And I remember back in the 70s realizing the surge and the interest, more interest in herbaceous plants, and the slight shift that was happening from woody ornamentals to herbaceous. But that real shift didn't come till the 2000s. The early 2000s, it started to really shift. And so it's interesting how it took a long time for that to happen. But now I just can't imagine planting the junipers that we used to sell. And I don't think, do they still sell a Pfizer juniper?
I don't think so.
I don't think they have a Pfizer juniper out there.
There's still some junipers out there, and there's some good ones, of course, and they have their place. Every plant has its place. But I just find with herbaceous perennials that the biggest issue is that there's not very many people out there who know how to properly manage them.
Right.
And so, as a maintenance company like KHS Landscape Maintenance, we do all kinds of maintenance, and one of our specialties is herbaceous perennial gardens. Right. Because there is that added expertise required, and just sort of knowing the timing on the different plants and things, and when and how to deadhead them properly, and which plants actually will benefit from that. Because some plants they won't respond, after you trim them back. Not every plant reblooms after you deadhead them. No. So if you know that, you can cut them extra hard and just let them kind of disappear a bit until next year, right? So there's lots to know.
Is that something that you find the early blooming rock plants like Arabis, Obretia, and those plants?
They're tricky to deal with for sure, because especially when they're the mainstay of a garden, or I'd say on the first 2 years or 3 years that the plant goes in, you don't have to really do much to manage them. They sort of are self-managing, and actually sometimes the more you let those ground covers just be on their own, the better. But after about 3 years, so they start to look pretty ratty looking, and you need to go in there and give them a pretty severe cutting back, and it's a big job for sure. But then it resets them, and they're good to go for again another 2 or 3 years.
I've got a little Arabis plant. I only got the one. I don't have any of the Orinia, the
the basket of gold, the old.
I don't have any of that. I just don't have a big enough yard for it. You need a good.
Oh man, they're
size.
beautiful.
Yeah.
They're so bright. Yeah.
But I have found with my little Obretia plant that in one bed that I have, that after it finishes blooming in the spring, I shear it back, and it comes on with this beautiful mound that blooms again next year. It doesn't bloom again this year, but you shear it back, and it grows out into this nice mound.
Yeah. And that's the key, is right after it blooms, right?
Yeah.
Because they're evergreen. Typical of Arabis and Abricias, they're actually an evergreen plant, and the buds are produced in the fall. And so those stems and branches and leaves that they have to be maintained. So if you're going to cut them back, you're better off to cut them back earlier in the season. Let the plant mature as it goes through the summertime, and go into winter just nice and mature, and nice tight little mounds would be ideal. And then, they just explode in the spring. They're fabulous color.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We are talking gardening because that's what we do. And Ken has informed me that the containers that I'm suggesting washing them. He's saying just for the seeding, buy some new ones. What? Come on, Don. They're $1 a tray, kind of. And
well, it just depends where you get them because I just bought some trays. They were $7 a tray. And now it's a little bit, Yeah, that's but if you can find them where they're actually selling them as individual inserts, and it's, you save the bucks on that, and it's the way to go.
Yeah. No, it's, I bought some little 1801s at Buckerfield's. Actually, no, 1201s. I got some 1201s at Buckerfield's. And so I'm putting my new onions that I'm getting in from Stokes, my new Elsa Craig onions, are coming in, and I'm going to put them into new containers with new soil, of course, and I'll just see what went on. I don't know what happened. I've never seen onions damp off like that.
Yeah, I haven't either. I find that just from time to time you get a problem. The conditions are just right. It's always about the conditions because you always have the fungus. It's always there, and the plant is always there. It's just you need to have the conditions to cause the problem. So, it's a condition thing, whether it's temperature or whatever it is, but maybe it's just the excessive prevalence of the disease. But I kind of even wonder about that because if you didn't have it prior, I think it's just the right conditions. So there's something going on there.
Well, I didn't wash the containers, and they're last year's containers. It sat there, and there was some of last year's dirt in them even,
that could be.
And, so anyway, we're going to take a short break and invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us. Ken and I have always got lots to talk about, so we can do it without you. But it always is fun to have the calls. And in the middle of winter, it's not as strong. But, people do wait till the end of the show. To call in, and we're going to suggest call in sooner, and then we got time to talk to you. We will be back with more AM 1165. We are back with you, and a good morning to all the ladies out there, and all the guys too, I guess. I'm just used to saying Happy Valentine's Day to the ladies in the family, but I guess love goes to the guys too. There you go.
You betcha.
We have Karen joining us. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, a couple of questions for you fellas. I was given a strawberry starter kit in a terracotta pot, and when I get that going, it's about the time to get it going, but once I get to the point of upsizing it, can I have it in a potting container, a fair-sized one that I can try to keep the plant growing year-round?
This is a strawberry plant?
Yeah,
it's like an edible strawberry plant. Like edible,
as far as I know.
Yeah,
edible. Strawberry plant in a starter kit. You start it at this time of year, and then once you get past all the frost and stuff,
you can put it outside.
Yeah, I just wondered if I were to have a fairly good-sized container that I can bring in for next winter with it in it, if I could carry it through for the winter.
Well, they're pretty hardy. Most strawberry species are pretty hardy varieties.
Yeah, they can stand the cold.
And they can stand the cold. So I think they're much better outside. Much better
outside.
I'm
just thinking like with our minus degrees we're getting.
Well, the weather we're having, the strawberries, generally, the ones that are out in the fields, in the ground, are not going to freeze. They're fine in this weather. Often people will, that's one of the reasons they're called strawberries, is because people will use straw around them to help a little bit through the winter and whatnot. And also the straw is such that it keeps the fruit from sitting on the ground. But no, I think your best bet, you're going to start it inside now and get it going, like you say, when the danger of frost is over or when the days are warmer, getting it outside, and you can grow it in a good-sized pot. And then next winter, to prepare for winter, if you don't have anywhere in the ground to plant them, You just put the pot up against the house somewhere, or if it's on your deck, you put it up against the house, and you get a cardboard box around it or something, and just protect it to a degree from the heavy frost. And I think Bob's your uncle. I think you're good.
Okay, some of the good old-fashioned ways of dealing with the old style of dealing with stuff for things like that. So I guess that sort of helps with understanding with the fact that the past handful of winters, the past few years, where with the global warming, we're getting all this weird, really cold weather that personally, growing up here in Kelowna, it's like, holy jumpins', it's
Yeah, the winters are inconsistent. That's what it seems like. Is that like this year it's just so mild the whole winter, and then all of a sudden, bam, we get hit with that cold snap.
But
and that's hard on the plants.
In my memory from back in the day, I mean, I've gone through 70 winters now, and definitely there is a it's called climate change when it's over a long period of time, things gradually change. But we've had lots of different winters where, darn, it's cold for the whole winter, and then next winter it's mild for part of it and cold. And but in general, the climate change is indicative of one of the reasons we're growing stuff here that back in the 60s we were unheard of. I could never have grown a Magnolia grandiflora back in the 60s.
No,
it just wouldn't happen. Anyway, Karen, we're going to have to move on, and we appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, and have yourselves a fantastic weekend.
And you as well.
And thank you, and happy Valentine's Day with your significant others.
Thank you. All the best.
Thanks, Karen.
Take care.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, that's it is a change,
and it's cool. It's actually cool to do these like a strawberry kit like that. I think that'd be pretty fun, and obviously you would reap the benefits of all the lovely little strawberries that you'd get through the summer. And depending on the variety, that's what we've always been big on the variety and the type, so that we know sort of how often it's going to fruit or what are the actual specifications.
As far as bringing it through the winter indoors, it's not going to work. There's not enough light. It's not going to work. It's just
they don't like it
be
to
a
be
sick
warm,
plant by the time spring comes.
You want to be outside.
We've got Vicki joining us. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have this year. I have put my. I followed the directions of someone who called your show. My geraniums last year, I knocked the dirt off. And I cut the stems down, and I put them in a paper bag in the garage. Mm-hmm. Now, I also, in case that didn't work for me, I made some little clones. So I have some little clone ones growing right now.
Good.
Nice.
But when do I take those out of the paper bag and put them in the ground? Is there anything I should do before I put them in the ground?
You're talking about putting them into pots, right?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I would suggest in 2 or 3 weeks, when you get into March, that would be an appropriate time to have a look at them. Is your garage heated?
It's attached to the garage, or attached to the house.
And so you feel that in there, would water freeze in there?
Oh no, nothing freezes in there.
Okay, well then they'll be fine.
Yeah,
they're just in a double paper bag up on a shelf, and I just wasn't sure when I should bring them down. Yeah. Now, the big pots that I usually grow them in, they're also in the garage. But there's no light. We have no windows in the garage, so I didn't think I could just go ahead and put them in those pots.
No, start them in smaller pots and get them inside where it's warmer in front of a bright window, and they'll just get up and take off and start to grow. And then once we get into about middle of May or so, then you can start to do your big planters and then add them in at that time.
Okay, so in somewhere around the middle of March, I should unbag them and.
Well, you want to have a peek at them, see how they're doing, have a little visit, and say, just see if there's viability there, and make sure that the roots aren't totally bone dry and crispy. You want to give them a little bit of water there, a little misting,
Okay.
But,
I didn't put them in any kind of, not soil, but I didn't put any other medium in the bag. I just knock the dirt off and put them in the bag.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's why I say, though, that the roots could use a little misting just to keep them viable.
Oh, okay. So I should have been doing that all winter?
Not really, but just getting to the point now where they've been up there for quite a while.
Hey,
and
you can check them right now.
I would check them. Check them.
Okay.
Yep.
Just check them out. Yeah, see how they're doing.
And then pot them up in March.
Yeah, another couple of weeks, I think you can start putting them into some pots. And if you've got a spot in the house, a room in the house that's got a nice window.
I do.
Yeah. Well, then put some plastic down the floor to keep everything clean, and just start your plants there. And I suggest once you get into April and you're getting days that are nice and warm, it may freeze at night. Put them outside in the daytime. They like that. The geraniums, it's called hardening them off. Now, you don't want to give them any frost if they've been soft and growing inside.
Yeah.
But certainly they'll take down to zero, down to freezing. They're very tough.
Okay.
And it's best, actually, that you get them outside and toughen them up, but just keep a close eye on them because you don't want to leave them out overnight.
Okay. Now, I didn't knock the root ball, like I knocked the dirt off, but I didn't cut off roots to make it like a smaller ball of root. Mm-hmm. So should I trim those?
Not necessarily. I would suggest, Vicki, that you leave the roots intact, just in case that you don't want to. Well, first of all, cutting into the roots could cause some disease getting into the roots and whatnot. I just leave them intact the way they are and give them a little misting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Well,
I love your show.
Well, thank you, Vicki. We appreciate that, and happy Valentine's Day to you.
Same to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.
Okay, we've got, who have we got here? We're going to look here, and we have Laura. Good morning, Laura.
Hello.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question about a fig tree.
Mm-hmm.
So last Mother's Day, my son ordered one and got it mailed, so it came in the mail, and it was like a few sticks about a foot tall, I guess. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I potted it up, and it grew really nice all year, and then really, really late in the summer, it started to have little fruit. And I'm going, oh, wow. And I probably should have got some advice at that point. But anyways, I let the fruit continue to grow, and then it got too cold for it to be outside. I have a little greenhouse, put it in there for a while, and then I ended up bringing it into the house. We have a very sunny window, big window. So he was like in my front entry, and some of the fruit actually ripened, and I got to taste it. But so then the leaves started falling off. So I decided to put it down. We have a room in our basement that's quite cool and dark, and I put it down there. And I did give it water once. What do I do now for the spring?
Well, it is a deciduous plant. They lose their leaves in the wintertime. I have my fig outside, but I put a covering over it every year.
Right.
And I even have a little heating cable in there when we had weather like we just had, a little heating cable just to kind of keep the frost right out of there.
Right.
Well, it'll take some frost. This particular variety, I don't know what variety you have.
Mine was, I think it's called Negroni. It's a little black or dark purple.
Yeah. Mine is Chicago, and it's supposed to be one of the hardier varieties. Now, I'm not sure on some of the other varieties whether they're going to be... I think
this one's meant to be a smaller tree, like that you can... So for me, it's ideal that it's in a pot.
It's like a patio plant.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, look, I think myself, it's in the dark now.
It's in the dark, and it's quite cool. Like I would say it's about 14 or 15 degrees in that room.
Yeah. I would almost, Ken, I'm not sure, but I think I would get it into that brighter room now.
Okay.
I would.
All right.
I put it in that brighter room now, and because before you know it, the days are getting longer, and it's going to leaf out for you.
Right.
So
when would you prune it?
I wouldn't prune it at all right now. Later on, you might want to prune it to shape it and that sort of thing.
When it gets bigger, yeah.
But I wouldn't prune it.
Okay.
I'd just keep it the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, when you're aiming at putting it back outside is probably around the end of May.
Yeah.
So that's that whole thing about waking it up is how long are you going to keep it in the house and as a house plant. And so the sooner you wake it up, the sooner it becomes your house plant. And then, the sooner you have to start taking care of it. But one of the keys is, I'm sure Don's getting at there, is that fruit, the sooner you get that fruit up and going, the sooner it ripens at the end of the season.
So you're not waiting till...
These figs, as I understand, I don't maybe the one that Don has does this, it fruits twice. So it'll have an early fruiting and then the late fruiting. And I could only assume that mine, missed the first one.
It did last year, yeah.
And it went on with the second one. I was so impressed.
I'm impressed too. I think you did a stellar job getting a mail order plant like that and having it survive and grow in the pot.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Good for you, Laura.
And sometimes the little fruits actually stay on over winter, and I've had mine actually just continue to grow the next spring.
Oh, is that right?
So keeping them going is good.
Oh,
Laura,
okay.
Appreciate the call.
Awesome.
We've got Dan Bruce waiting in the sidelines here to come on, so we're going to have to get going on that, but we appreciate your call very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And on that note, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to talk to Dan Bruce when we come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Okay, we've got a good 10 minutes here to talk to Dan Bruce, and welcome to the show, Dan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And you're well this morning?
I am.
Oh, good.
I am
and what surprises do you have up your sleeve?
Well, an arm.
Yeah, okay. Just one thing. I'm just going to introduce this. Dan Bruce, every week, has been calling in and talking about Scottish botanists, significant Scottish botanists. And what have you got this week?
Well, we were going to pick up where we left George Forrest before, but in fact, I'm going to change the deal today. And this little broadcast is in honor of the late Ken Walden. Ken and his wife Jan were the founding president and secretary of the Friends of Fintry Society. Ken passed away on Sunday.
Oh, dear.
No.
Oh, dear.
And that's a huge loss because not only was he deeply involved in Fintry, but in many other organizations in the central Okanagan. Horticulturally, Ken made his mark as a grower of orchids. And where they lived, over on the west side, he had a greenhouse which produced the most phenomenal specimens of orchids. And one of the things about visiting over there was that when one or other of these plants came into flower, they were brought into the house, and it could be thoroughly appreciated there. That's not the only horticultural connection. There's a much a different one in that Jan, his wife, is a direct descendant of Frederick Law Olmsted.
Okay.
Frederick Law Olmsted was the landscape architect who laid out the grounds of Central Park in New York.
Oh, I knew that rang a bell. Yes.
And there is indeed a very high-quality white lilac named Frederick Law Olmsted in his honor.
Wow.
We have a plant of that here at the house, which is amazingly has survived all the bad stuff that's gone on. Anyway, Ken will be greatly missed. And to do him honor, the Friends of Fintry are going to acquire a Walter Fitch engraving of an orchid.
Oh, wow.
And you remember we spoke about Walter Fitch in a previous session, a renowned Scottish plant illustrator. So what the plan is that we will get one of his engravings showing an orchid, the kind of thing that Ken would have appreciated, and it will hang in the Manor House at Fintry as a permanent reminder of Ken Walden and his work at Fintry.
Wonderful thing to do. Now, the display of Scottish botanists that you have at Fintry, when is Fintry going to be opening?
Well, we normally we would open it on the Mother's Day weekend.
Right.
But opening things nowadays is really up in the air. So I can't honestly say when we're going to open, because as soon as I do that, of course, it will change.
Yeah, that's right. But if people have questions, they can...
People have questions, and they can, in fact, get answers to those questions, or at least a believable answer, by emailing info@fintry.ca.
That's the slickest email address that I've seen. That's very easy to remember, that info@fintry.ca. Holy mackerel.
Yes, we were occasionally we get lucky. And that was a good one.
That is a fabulous one, yeah.
If a Walter Fitch orchid engraving is not going to be, it won't be the real plant, but it will come, I think, as in this circumstance, a better memorial, because it will be permanent.
Well, yes. No, that's fabulous. And I did do a little research on Walter Fitch, and boy, oh boy, he was good. He was very good.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah, I know. Beautiful illustrations of plants, and I'm very, 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 very excited about that. Now, that's a great tribute to Ken, and Ken and I, my Ken and me, Don, send our condolences out to Jan and the family, because it's not very pleasant to lose a person in the family.
And because of COVID, of course, their son, who is in Massachusetts, cannot come back in time to do anything.
Yeah.
He would use up all his bereavement leave sitting in a hotel in isolation. Well, that's not greatly productive.
No, and this is a fact of life right now for us all. There's a lot of these things that have been having to be canceled or not attended and whatnot. And it's a sad thing. But just for your information and as well to pass on to the listening audience, we lost another gentleman just recently, and that is Mike Cowlick from Swan Lake Nurseries. And 88 years old, been in the business and contributing to the industry for many, many, many years. Just a delightful gentleman, and he's going to be missed as well. So I'd like to send our condolences out to his family.
Well, the next time I'm on the air, we will end with a brighter note. The successful escape of George Forrest from the vengeful Tibetan lamas with their Tibetan Mastiff dogs who were determined to kill him.
Well, now you got me going. We're going to...
And after that, we're also going to join Sarah, the Countess Amherst, on her with her husband, who was sent by George III as ambassador to the Emperor of China. And
that's
while
great.
He was dealing with the politics of the situation, she was off doing plant collecting.
Wonderful. We're going to have to go, Dan, and now you got me just with bated breath waiting. So we will see you next week. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Take care.
Got to
All
do
right.
the news right now,
Bye.
and we're going to take that break. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we are back with you for a rip-roaring second half of the Garden Show. We've got all sorts of things coming up, including Shigo Quote of the Week coming up. And we do that every week for Dr. Shigo. He is the father of modern arboriculture, and we really appreciate all the knowledge that he spewed out over his lifetime. And Ken and I are both he's very in awe of what he's done. And he's one of our mentors and heroes. We're going to go to the phone lines, though. Renee is on the line. Good morning, Renee.
Good morning, Don and Ken. How are you guys?
We're well. We're well.
Great.
Now we're talking coming up something real seedy, right?
Oh yes. The Okanagan Master Gardeners.
Yeah. Nice.
We are hosting Seedy Sunday on March 14th.
All right.
Yes, we are so excited. Yeah. Our members, we've collected and bagged approximately 3,200 seed envelopes this year of just local seed. Just amazing work these wonderful ladies have done. And due to the COVID restrictions this year, it has to be a drive-through event. Yes, which we've never done before. So in order to do this, you have to visit our Facebook page. So we're at facebook.com/Kelowna Seedy Sunday. From there, you'll see a link starting tomorrow for a Survey Monkey. So you click the link, you go on the Survey Monkey, and on there we'll have a list of all the seeds that we have available. There is a maximum of 15 seeds per order, just to ensure that everyone gets them. And then you register with the Eventbrite. It'll take you right there. You select your pickup time, and then you show up at the Kinsman Fieldhouse.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's just off of Gordon there.
Yeah.
Sort of behind the H2O Center, right?
Exactly, yeah. I haven't been to the physical location myself yet, but yeah. And well, I think it's going to be a great event. We're all really looking forward to it, but the seeds have to be pre-ordered in order to go with all the COVID restrictions, to adhere to them. So unfortunately, we can't have people just show up and go, we would like some seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year we will, though.
Oh, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, 2022. I hope we go back to normal.
So I'm just gonna go over what I have here that you sent me, Renee. Okanagan Master Gardeners run Seedy Sunday, March the 14th at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The location is the Kinsman Fieldhouse, 3975 Gordon Drive. Now, here's the deal. You got to order before, as Renee said, you got to order first, and you go to the Facebook page. I'm just kind of looking for that. Now you can maybe hand that out again.
Yeah, facebook.com /Kelowna Seedy Sunday.
Easy one, easy. Facebook.com
Kelowna Seedy Sunday.
Kelowna Seedy Sunday. Easy peasy.
Yeah. It was easier the first time we heard
it.
Yeah,
it was easy. And then my 71-year-old brain just came up.
It happens.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that's the Master Gardeners are putting it on this year, which is really good. We love the Master Gardeners. Ken and I both really love the Master Gardeners. We think it's a great program, and hopefully they'll be able to do that again soon because it's been kind of squashed down like a lot of things. But
it has been.
Yeah, you do have to. We're going to talk about it again next week, but you do have to order first.
Yes,
you can't
you
just
have to
drive through
pre-order.
there and say, I want this or I want that. No, you can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also have an email for anyone who has any questions. Is KelownaCDSunday@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Now, on Sunday, March the 14th, you're hoping to have Dave from the Blueberry Man selling his blueberry bushes outside.
No,
You're not going to do that?
Unfortunately, due to the COVID restrictions, we were not allowed to have any vendors this year.
Okay, can't do that. Okay, well,
there
see
you go.
you, as they say on Kim's Convenience.
It is. It's so sad. Well, we're hoping for next year.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, Renee, and we appreciate the work you're doing here because you guys are working hard to make things happen, and that's wonderful. Great contribution to our society here. That's great.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Give us another call next week to remind us, and we'll definitely talk about the CD Sunday coming up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Renee.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
There you go.
Yeah, we're all just doing the best we can to make these events happen.
I just thoroughly enjoy the CD Sundays, and CD Saturdays, and
I know
we've been out to quite a few of them in the Okanagan Valley here. They vary on different days, but
they usually see you in the flesh.
Yeah, I like to set up a booth and hang out and answer questions and get to chat with people. That's just super fun. But maybe next year, maybe 2022, we'll be back on track and get on with that for sure.
Well, Ken, just recently, I was just speaking with Bill Withers. Bill Withers. I told him, "Ain't no sunshine" is poor grammar. Poor grammar. But you know what he says? I know.
Oh.
Gee. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's pretty funny. That's a good one.
250-862-2525 if you want to stop this ridiculous stuff. Chatter. That's all right.
Yeah, I might just mention again about our webinars coming up this Wednesday.
How to get to them.
Yeah. All you have to do is, if you're interested in the webinar on herbaceous perennials, that's coming up this Wednesday at 1 p.m. So it's a midday thing on a Wednesday. So anybody who's at home would like to participate in the webinar, all they have to do is go to growercoach.com and just click on the tab at the top that says Learning, and you can go in and look at the webinars that are coming up. And the webinars, we're going to be adding some more coming up here fairly soon as well, probably right around the beginning of March. We'll add a few more in there. One on cut flowers is coming up. That's a really good one, growing your own cut flowers. And, that was one of our topics today. And so you go to growercoach.com and you can sign up for herbaceous perennials, gardening with herbaceous perennials this Wednesday at 1 p.m. It's easy to do. And let's get together online. That's really the only way we can do it. We used to do them in person, but now we do them online, and it's still pretty good. We get a chance to show the slideshows and that sort of thing. It works out pretty close to the same.
Perfect. Ken, you're doing a great job. Amber is telling me we've got Henry joining us. Good morning, Henry.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Listen, I want to know about strawberry plants. I have a pot about 14 inches across. Mm-hmm. Do I put potting soil in it or regular soil?
No, potting soil. Absolutely potting soil.
Even if the pot is that big?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just straight potting soil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, back in the old days, we did use regular soil from the garden, and then we would mix thoroughly into it peat, lots of peat, probably half peat, and perlite and everything, but you got to open it up. You can't just have regular soil in a pot, no matter how big the pot is.
Yeah, and then not to mention that it's become so heavy with mineral soil. Most containers, you just want to use the soilless mixes, which are what they call a potting medium, and that's what you buy when you buy potting soil, and especially designed for the container itself, not so much for the plant. It's really they're ideal, scientifically actually developed to work with plants.
Yep.
So will I have to water these strawberries every second day?
Depends on weather and depends
when it gets hot,
location. When it's hot, you probably will.
Oh, yeah. Every day probably when it gets really
every
hot.
Day.
Yeah. And remember that with the potting soil, it holds the water way better than than the regular earth would.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why another reason why we use potting soils, because it has this ability to hold huge amounts of water, but at the same time hold a huge amount of air as well, which is what the roots really need.
Yep.
So it's perfect.
It's a combination. It's like an engine. It needs gas and air. And
gas and air. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And there you go. So we're going to take a short break here. It's right on the dot. And we invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us. I'm going to come up with my plant or genus of the week this week. And it's Sansevieria, which, hey, it's kind of cool.
We got to chat about that.
Sansevieria is a genus of the week, and we'll be back with more AM 1153. We are back with you on a beautiful Saturday morning, and it's starting to warm up, folks. Pretty soon it will be warm and spring again. So we got through it. I mean,
I hope that's the end of it.
We're not going to get any of that.
We didn't have much
anymore.
of a winter, but it's kind of nice when it's only 1 week long, even if it is minus 20.
Okay, we've got Pam joining us. Pam, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Got a couple of questions for you guys. One, do you think that this deep cold that we've been experiencing, and I know it's going to amount to like a week of really cold. It's not like it's going on forever. But do you think it will impact growth into the spring, like buds on apricots or other things that might?
No, I think that's where it's going to show up. That's Pam. That's where it's going to show up the most. I think is on some of the early blooming fruit trees.
And depending on when it comes to the fruit crops, is depending where they're located, right? And so surprisingly, sometimes it's in the warmer locations. So somebody who's facing, say they have a southwest facing orchard, some of those orchards, those buds are already pushing, and the little buds that protect the stems and the branch tips and the flower buds have the little protective bud scales on them, and those bud scales are generally tight as can be for these cold snaps, so they should be good to go. But I've had actually a couple chats with a few people, and they've gone out with magnifying glasses and looked at those buds, and they could see that they're actually those bud scales are starting to loosen up already before it got cold. So I don't know. Could
only
be bad.
Time will tell, Pam. But
I guess so. Yeah.
Looking a little dicey.
Yeah, I guess the keener buds are the ones that are going to get snipped. The ones that were lazy or in shadier places would be more protected because they wouldn't have known to do anything more.
Exactly. Yeah. The orchards that were sort of north or east facing, which are normally later, are actually probably safer.
A little better off, yeah. Okay, one other question I have. I've been entertaining myself by repotting some houseplants this weekend that have just looking like they're pushing their way out of their pots, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe I can give you a little upgrade. And one of my challenges has actually been to find soil. I was curious when I went to a couple of locations to find some really specialized sounding soil. It's got special food, it's got special rhizomes, it's got all this stuff. And I go, wow, it's almost like we're I don't remember shopping for soil before and it being so special. I almost feel like I'm in the protein powder aisle of some natural food store, and I just go, I just want milk. I don't want all the bells and whistles. I just want soil. Anyways, I just thought I wouldn't mind just hearing both of your thoughts on the idea. How special does soil need to be when it comes out of a bag? And where have you found our good sources? Those are my questions.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. I always say that, I don't think you can pay too much for soil, and it basically boils down to the price. So sometimes you can get these fancy soils that do have all kinds of additives to them, and some of those additives are great, and some of them are maybe not 100% necessary, depending on the types of plants you're growing. But let's just say I want to get the highest quality I can for a reasonable price. And so that's where I like to support local garden centers. That's my first step. And then after that, if they're out, then I will go to the next step. And, I would go to potentially the box stores and see what they have. I just think that right now is when a lot of that soil and the especially the bales, if you buy by the bale, especially if you're an avid gardener, or you got lots of plants to deal with in the next couple of months, that you'd buy a bale of potting soil, and typically the stuff that comes in the bales is of reasonable quality and it's a reasonable price, and so that's really, I would say, the way to go is to look at something that's baled in large quantities. You can buy one of those bales, put it in the garage, and you're good to go for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I just kind of got a little overwhelmed thinking, man, I didn't know that soil needed to be so segmented and specialized. I know that there's, different kinds of soil for different kinds of plants, but this wasn't what it was. This is more like, look at me, I have super great ingredients. And I go, okay, I don't know if this is a sales pitch or if your ingredients really are great. And it just raised the question, really. I'm not doubting that there isn't better soil. There are certainly qualities of soil.
Depends on the price.
Is always better.
Yeah, and it depends on the price. So if I can get something that's got, they'll say they advertise now mycorrhizae on the label, and that's a type of fungus that's beneficial to some types of plants. And it's not beneficial to all plants, just certain ones. And I don't think we really understand 100% if it's going to work in a potting mix, whereas it's all inert sort of. It's not like growing it in the earth, where in the earth you've got this vast space and it's full of compost and all kinds of different things. It's alive, and then when you put in that mycorrhizae, it just takes off, and it's a wonderful additive. But in a container, how useful is that? But if I saw the product there and it was the same price as the other one, maybe I would try it and see, just because it's a price thing in a way. Hard to explain, really. So if you can get a really high-end product that has all kinds of bells and whistles and it's about the same price, well, I think I would just go for that.
Grab the bells and whistles.
Yeah,
I hear you.
Why not?
Okay, well, thank you. Okay. I've got an African violet that just thinks it is celebration time.
Nice.
I don't know. I haven't been growing it long enough. I got the cutting from a friend in May last year, and I just sort of took care of it until the fall, and it bloomed its head off, and then it took a little break, and now it is party time again. So I go, okay, we'll grab you.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it's pretty great. So it's keeping my fingers dirty, which is a good thing for a gardener.
Yeah, that's
time
right.
of year when it's too cold outside. Thanks so much for your input.
Okay, thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam. Appreciate the call.
Bye-bye.
We have a question from a listener, email question. She's got a philodendron that she's watering only every 2 weeks, but the leaves are still turning yellow. She's been putting fertilizer into the water over the winter. The leaves seem to turn yellow after she's watered it. Now, could it be the fertilizer? I'm thinking salts.
It could be, yeah, and just excessive moisture. Like a lot of those philodendrons don't like to be too soggy wet, especially in the wintertime. They really like to be quite dry.
Well, on another side of that coin is, like if she's watering every 2 weeks, okay, is she watering well?
Well enough.
Because sometimes you water them a little bit and it just kind of it doesn't leach through and take away the salts. When you do water something, a house plant, it needs to be watered really well. In my greenhouse, I've got various, asparagus ferns, and I've got all sorts of. I'll just take the pots, put them onto the walkway in the greenhouse, and I'll take the whole open hose and just really soak the daylights out of them, and then put them back on the bench.
Yeah, and if it's a smaller pot, you can put it right into the sink and run tepid water through and rinse it out. So that's called leaching. I recommend at least twice a year for leaching. And with the bigger plants, it's always in the spring or summer when it's warm enough to put them outside for a little bit. Nice shady spot, get them outside. Give them that heavy, heavy leaching, like you say. Just use a garden hose and just run that through and let it drip out and get rid of all the built-up salts that's in the pots, and then move it back into its location, and it's good to go. But always give it one more of those before they go in for the winter at some point, maybe the end of August or so. And then, so if that's if we're moving plants in and out. But smaller pots, you can do it, again, twice a year. So if you put it into your schedule to just do all your plants twice a year, then you don't have to worry about it as much. But, when you start seeing the yellow leaves, if there's any brown edges on those, then you know that's a salt thing that Don's talking about there, is that when you do get buildup of salts, you tend to get brown edges and crisping from the edges. And then when the leaf is turning yellow and then it's being shed, So the plant is definitely under some stress, and that's the thing is if a leaf just goes brown and crispy and dies, that's a pretty aggressive potential disease issue. But when the plant is turning yellow, remember that what's happening is the plant is absorbing all the chlorophyll out of that leaf, and it's preparing to discard it. Yeah. So that means it's either like it's requiring more reserves. Maybe it's recycling the chlorophyll out of the leaf, and then it's going to shed the leaf. So you let it turn yellow, and then you snip it off and remove it, and then hopefully it doesn't reoccur. But what I would do is never water the plant if it's moist or wet. So you take your finger, if it's a larger pot, say something that's that 14, 16 inches in diameter, you want to push your entire finger into the soil, at least at 4. You push it down really good so you can feel what's going on in the soil itself. And if it's still feeling wet or moist down inside the soil, I would wait another week and then check it again, because the philodendrons especially, they need to dry out between waterings. And so if it's in a small pot, you might be checking it literally daily, but don't water it until it's dry. And then what I've been doing is using my cell phone, because it's got the reminders on it. And then I actually have to do each plant almost. But say I would put in my cell phone, philodendron, what day was it bone dry? And then you checked it and you went, yeah, okay, it's ready for watering. It's quite dry now to the depth of, 1 inch, 2 inches, whatever. So I'm going to give it a good watering. So I take it, put it in the sink, give it a good watering, let some of that water come through, and then I set it in my phone that was the day I did it, and then I keep checking it again, and I don't water it until it gets dry again. And so if that's 2 weeks, well, then I know once every 2 weeks is probably good. So then I can set that into my phone as a reminder, and then that reminder will pop up and remind you to check it and water it. And that way it takes it off your puts it onto your reminder list. But what happens is as the season progresses and it gets warmer and sunnier, then that window's going to shrink a bit. It's going to go from 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's going to go down to a week and a half or 10 days. But because you're checking it and you're noticing that, the plant's needing a little extra, it's better off to dry between waterings than it is to be wet all the time.
Yolanda has another couple of questions here that she's emailed us on, and we'll deal with those. Sure. We've got to take this short break. We've got Hilda waiting for us online or on the line, and we're going to talk to Hilda when we come back, and we'll do that when we come back with more AM 1150. We're back with you for another half an hour or so, 25 minutes, and we appreciate your participation today on the Garden Show. We've had some fun, and we are going to have more fun as spring progresses. It's amazing how the days are going to change. But we've got Hilda joining us, and we always love to hear from Hilda. Good morning, Hilda.
Yes, good morning. I've got an orchid that I got last year. The beginning of December. And it blossomed till about November of about 11 months, And
did we lose you? I think we got muted somehow.
They're starting to open up. But it lost about 4 leaves now already, and the 3 leaves that are still on there withered.
Yeah, it's not sounding good, Hilda. That's not sounding good. This is probably a Phalaenopsis orchid that you have.
I don't know what it's called.
Moth orchid.
It was beautiful when I got it.
I know. And, you can kill those things. I mean, they're relatively easy to look after, and I've seen people having them for years and years. What kills them quite often is keeping them too wet too long. If they're too wet too long, they like to go quite dry,
especially in the winter months.
They're an epiphyte, and the one thing about my orchid stand that I have in my greenhouse, I'll forget about it. Oh, I better grab and I'll grab them. And these orchids, I have some in moss and some just in pots. And they are as light as a feather when I take them off that stand. And I put them in a bucket of water and soak them up, and then I'll put them back on the stand again.
You put them, you soak them from the bottom.
Yeah, I just put submerge them in a bucket of water. And I leave them there for about 10 minutes, and then I bring them back out, stick them back up, and I probably don't get back to them for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a tricky. I think in the winter months with a lot of these, when Don says epiphytic, he means that these are plants that live on the bark of other trees and things like in the jungle, and they just sort of hang off the trees. So they don't really have. They're not really rooting in like potting soil sort of thing. They just will root into a bunch of bark, just more as an anchoring point. So most of their nutrients and things just come out of the atmosphere through the leaves, or they do take up some things through the bottom. But the key is in the winter months, they almost treat them like a cactus almost, where we don't water them very often, about once a month or so. And then as the season progresses, once they get into closer to summer, like into May, we can water more freely then, and we could water, twice a week if we wanted to, and they'd be fine because the temperatures are warmer and they're more light and all that.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with orchids, Hilda. They need to breathe, and they want to breathe between waterings. And I know that it's so easy to get Phalaenopsis orchids to rot if they're kept too wet. Now, on the other hand, I've killed them letting them get too dry too. The Phalaenopsis orchid, if you can't, it doesn't go forever. I mean, I killed one because it was outside in the summer. I had it on my orchid stand outside, and all they are, my little Phalaenopsis, are just in chicken wire container with moss, with sphagnum moss in it. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot, it's really epiphyte. It's a real, I'm treating it like an epiphyte there. Mm-hmm. And they do well as long as you don't forget to periodically, periodically outside, I would suggest if they're outside, quite often in the heat of summer, you might want to do it at least once a week, soak them once a week. But just, but don't let them stay wet for any length of time. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what would I do now? Could I...
Let it dry out, one thing. You can clip off any of the rotted roots. I'm assuming you've got some rotted roots there.
Leaves.
And clip off any leaves that are bad, and hopefully it'll start sending out a new leaf from the crown if you start letting it dry between wets. It could be done. Who knows? Mm-hmm. I killed one last year.
And they like it warm, too, so that they're not fans of cool temperatures.
Right.
So if they had it their way, they would be, probably above 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so up in that.
Well, do they need sun in the winter, too?
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they need some light, yeah. Bright light would be good.
Well, I had them here in the living room, and it's the north side. Mm-hmm. So it started, it was doing very well, but then all of a sudden it just somehow stopped developing. The flowers don't get bigger, and
nice and close to the window.
Keep it close to the window, and the days are starting to get longer now, so the light's going to get better. So there's a chance you can get that thing back on track. Okay?
Okay.
Hilda, thank you for the call. We appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks,
for
Hilda.
your information.
Yeah. You're very welcome, Hilda. Yeah. We always like to hear from you.
I guess that's about it.
Mm-hmm. All righty.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, one of our regular callers, and we appreciate those regular callers. We're hearing from a lot of new folks, new voices on the radio, which is great, too.
Bet.
But we do appreciate the support we've had over the years from our regular callers. It's very, very important that we recognize that. 250-862-2525 to get through. We've got just about 20 minutes left in the show, and I was fascinated and thankful that I did get in touch with Judy, Dr. Shigo's daughter, and she sent me a lovely email and recognized the fact that we were at the Victoria presentation, which was one of her dad's final ones that he did. And he did such a great job. He packed theater there.
Yeah,
it was just packed. The aisles, packed to the aisles. It was like the Rolling Stones were in there or something. We've got Terry joining us. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, I've got a, and I'm not sure what actual kind it is, but I got a hawthorn tree that I've had for, since it was first planted from the nursery here, probably 12 years old or so. Mm-hmm. And I've cut it back and sculpted it and stuff, but I've got this nasty aphid problem that I've tried ladybugs and stuff, and I'm wondering if there's something this spring I can get a jump on these aphids.
Yeah, well, the dormant spray is what's normally recommended, and it's relatively, it's a safe product, safe spray to use, and it definitely deters a lot of those overwintering aphids and things. So it gives you a fresh start in the spring. Mm-hmm. And other than that, what I do with hawthorn trees, because I know they're always prone to having lots of aphids. I know that the beneficial insects will come in and clean them all up, but when they do take off, it's quite a mess. Mm-hmm. And so I just try not to prune them. And it's one of the things that when you prune them, especially in any time through the dormant season or early season, they tend to sucker like mad, and that sucker growth, that soft growth, just attracts them like it's crazy. They just get infested. So
tell me about it.
Yeah,
so I know because I keep this thing. I prune it and trim it, and I trim all the suckers off and stuff every year, 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
And I've dwarfed this tree.
Oh, okay.
This tree should probably be 20, 25 feet tall by now, and it's maybe 10.
Oh, cool. So you've got it really under control. You're managing it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, so when we say these heavy pruning situation, Ken and I are always saying right plant, right place. And in particular, hawthorns, in my humble opinion, should never see pruning shears. They shouldn't see pruning shears. They should be planted in a spot where they can do their thing and become a hawthorn tree. And if you don't prune them, you don't get all the suckers. And you don't get the fresh new growth in the spring that attracts the aphids. And sometimes a tree that's kind of under stress because it's been pruned so much will have more problems with bugs than a tree that doesn't.
I think that's where I'm at with this one. And I'm in a situation and where, like, I bought this place new, and it was part of the landscaping that my landscaping crew did. Mm-hmm. And they had just planted this thing, and I had no knowledge about trees or anything. I'd have no green thumb here, but so it's in a spot where it probably shouldn't be, I guess. Yeah. But I do get a lot of compliments on it, the way I've got it trimmed up and everything.
And that's
neighbors love it.
That's fair. That's fair. There's no doubt about it. I'm not trying to suggest that you change your methods, but in the long run, that's our advice is to plant a tree where it can be a tree.
And then when you do, try to keep most of your pruning to the summertime.
Yeah. And
like in August. So that timing doesn't have much response, so you can keep trees more sort of dwarfy and compacted. So just sort of what you're doing is you're tweaking it. I would say just keep moving as much of the pruning into the summer as you can, and then start using these dormant style sprays. That's really the way to go. And actually, the funny thing is that the more, if you start using insecticides to spray it, you will actually won't really manage the insect population. It's like if you back away from spraying completely, just go with the dormant sprays, that the natural beneficial insect populations will boom and eat all those aphids that come on.
Well, I know the leaves get all sticky, and the bees love it. So there's lots of aphids, lots of bees, and the birds love it. The birds come in there and eat the aphids, I guess, or whatever.
Absolutely, they love it.
And the aphids will never kill the tree. They bother it, but they don't kill it.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing any harm at all. No. Yeah, it's just that there's literally clouds of them around there at times.
Yeah, well, and Terry, the key thing is don't park your car under a tree that's affected like that because it makes the car messy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure.
Terry, thanks for the call.
Dormant oil is the way to go. Probably.
Do the dormant spray. Do the dormant spray this spring.
Probably, the end of March, early April.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
guys.
Terry.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye now. And we're going to take a short break now, being the last break of the day, but we've got Ray waiting for us, and we appreciate that, Ray. Just hang in there because we're going to be back with more AM 1150. Okay, we are back for the final segment of the AM 1150 Garden Show, and always having fun on the show. We're here talking to lots of people, lots of new people, and we're going to talk to Ray. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. Good morning. I have a relatively short backyard, and the neighbors are elevated maybe a foot, so there's visibility from their house into our house. And I was wondering if I put in some pampas grass or something like that would grow, 10 feet tall or 12 feet tall and keep over the winter, at that height. Is there as much problem with that pampas grass as I'm reading about on the internet?
Well, we can't grow pampas grass here in the Okanagan. It freezes out.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are other grasses, ornamental grasses, that do well here. A lot of the miscanthus family and a lot of the, what's that big tall one that's...
Miscanthus sacriflorus is really big, and Erianthus is that big. That's what they call the hardy pampas grass, but it's so stringy on the top.
It's a bit stringy,
It wouldn't give you much protection. The other thing with grasses is that they're not even going to get going until July, August. Right. So you're going to get about a month of coverage, right? And then as they get into the fall, you pretty much have to cut them down, those big ones, because they get so messy over the wintertime. And they, so I would say that grass might not be the best choice for that.
How much room do you have?
Well, I would like to plant it as close to the fence as I can, but I don't want anything that they're going to have to prune on the other side. So I've kind of looked at putting up some sort of arbor and maybe having that 6-8 feet away from the fence, which is further, away from the fence than I want it. And maybe putting, there's a hydrangea that grows almost wild in a vine-like thing.
It's very slow growing,
Are they slow growing?
Yeah, it can take years to get a decent-sized one.
Okay, because I was over at...
Beautiful.
Some people's house, and they had 2 or 3 of these setups growing up on lattices, and I mean, it was a full blank wall protection.
Yeah.
But
the hydrangea petiolaris is what you're thinking of, the climbing hydrangea, and it's a great plant, but as Ken says, it's slow, and it won't take full sun.
Okay, well, this would be full sun.
Yeah. I think what you might want to do is potentially... remember, with your structures, you have to check your local bylaws for your setback from your side fences, and often a lot of Kelowna is about 1 meter setback, so you can actually get closer to the fence, depending on where you're located. And then the structure itself could be 2-dimensional, like you say, just a trellis or something, and then the height of it, there are height restrictions. But that sometimes is not a bad idea, even design something that gives you privacy just with the design of it, and then you grow a couple of clematis or something on there just to make it look pretty.
Ray, I'm going to suggest you give me an email, dawn@thegardenexpert.com, and I can send you some pictures of various structures and things like that. But we're going to have to move on now because we're close to the end of the show, and we got to talk to Angie before we leave.
Sounds good.
Ray,
will do that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the call.
Okay.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it.
Angie, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering, I've got two avocado plants that I've got planted in a pot. Would it be good to separate them now? One's about maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall, and the other one is maybe 18 inches.
Yeah. You don't have to separate them. I mean, you can grow them together and make it a cluster.
It gets a little bushier when you have two together than if you just have one. They tend to be a skinny growing tree when they're young.
So you could leave them together. You could leave them together. As far as to answer your question, you could carefully separate them. Coming up now is kind of transplanting time for tropicals, and coming up, you could probably separate them, being very careful to feather them out and put them into some new pots, some separate pots. But as Ken and I was just saying, that you could just leave them together in a pot.
Well, can Okay, that's good. And the other question I have is I have a poinsettia, and it's orange with yellow in the middle leaves. Will it stay that color, or will it turn green as it grows?
Well, the new growth is going to be green, and then it will the new growth as fall comes and you shorten the days, it will come on with its bracts, and those bracts will be the same color as when you bought it.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
And do I need to fertilize them?
Yeah, you want to give them a triple 20 is an ideal food for poinsettias as they go through the growing period.
Just like a Miracle-Gro, water-soluble type. And, starting fertilizing in March. Generally, fertilizing season is March, April, May, June, July, August. A little bit in September, and then not so much in the winter months.
Good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Yeah.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, we're getting very close to the end of the show now, and we've got the Shy-Go moment coming up, and we've got our tips and plants of the week, and we just want to thank everybody for giving us a call today, and we enjoy hearing from everyone. And also, I want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and so just in case you've forgotten about your sweetie, you better... Get into action.
Get at it.
Go into action. Ken's done a wonderful show on cut flowers and arranging floral arrangements and that sort of thing. And
check it out on YouTube. That's Grower Coach at YouTube.
Yeah, and that'll give you some great ideas for Valentine's Day. On that note, we're going to say the trips and plants of the week. Okay, my tip of the week this week is to make sure you use good, clean containers if you're putting seedlings in. Not necessary for everything you do, but when you're putting seedlings in, make sure your old containers are clean, using them to start seeds. 10% bleach solution works well, but Ken came up with the best idea, and that is to use your hand spray cleaner, disinfect the alcohol,
spritzer,
the spritzer. Plant of the week this week for me is a Heuchera micrantha Pallas purple.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week is that at this time of year, it's all about cut flowers. So when you do get some flowers, and if they're just fresh cuts, you always make a fresh cut on the bottom of them. Nice angled cut is good. That opens up the little sieve tubes so that the water is easy to flow into the stems. And just remember to keep those readily topped up. We always tell people if you get a flower arrangement or if you have fresh flowers, water them every day, rain or shine. And not much rain right now, but that's how to keep them fresh and keep them happy. All right, my plant of the week this week is the lily family, just because they are one of the best cut flowers. If you like the fragrance, you go with oriental lilies. And if you just like the eye candy part, just pick up the regular Asiatic lilies. They're beautiful and long-lasting, one of the best cut flowers you can get. All right, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Thank you, Ken. And we're going to do the Shy-Go quote of the week, and we do this every week to honor our wonderful mentor and friend, Alex Shy-Go, Dr. Alex Shy-Go, father of modern arboriculture. Up until he came along, people didn't really understand it. He actually coined the phrase, or coded, compartmentalization of disease in trees. That was an Alex Shy-Go thing, and it's fabulous. So, my Shy-Go moment this week is, as humans kill big things, there are many more little things to take over. So there you go. And deep. On that note, sorry, Ken?
That was deep.
That was deep, yeah. On that note, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.